That's definitely powerful.
And that's part of the growth.
Absolutely.
But you don't like doing that, so that's the
pain.
pain in the growth. So the growing pains, man. This is the growing pains.
Yes.
It's never ending. And like you said, like if you're not growing, you're dying. And welcome back to our
channel.
No, what we say? We don't do that. Is up everybody.
Yes.
Welcome to our first YouTube video, and Tisha, tell the people what we talking about today.
You feel me? That's what she called me. Don't nobody else call me that. But yeah, we here to talk about growing pains, right? You're not gonna be the same. You hopefully aren't the same person you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, however old you are ago. It took a lot to get there, and we want to applaud you for that. How in the ever? I guarantee you, if you look around,
some stuff.
It came with some stuff.
You lost stuff. You gained stuff. You had some drama with some stuff.
You persevered. That's the biggest thing. And
like growing pains is not just with people and the things around you, right? It's with your partner, yourself, and most definitely, God, your relationship with God. And then also like people who've known, here we go again, don't know how to speak. That's right.
People who've
known you.
Yes.
I could speak. Since you know you were birthed, all right. Since you were made, since you came into this world.
You are so extra. Anyway, yes. Now, for you, in our relationship, right? Like, two individuals are always gonna be changing. But like managing expectations is the key part of growing pains that we want to talk about.
But I have a question before we get to that. Knowing our 14 and 16-year-old selves compared to our 25-year-old selves, what, we could both answer, what did that look for you when you looked at me? And then I can answer what that looked like for you when I looked at you. And although it wasn't on a romantic again. It's his mom painting. But what growth did you see in me?
Right.
From 14 to 16 to 25.
And like...
And what did I see in you? And then also like, we could talk about what we saw in ourselves.
Definitely. Well, first of all, how I saw you then versus how I saw you when we rekindled was two totally different things. Yeah. But not totally different, because you say I'll be capping, but I really do believe that I intentionally, subconsciously, I won't say intentionally, subconsciously didn't like date you in high school because I knew I wasn't emotionally mature enough to handle that kind of relationship because of how highly I saw you. So like at 14, 15, like I saw you as like that young queen that you didn't really know that you were, I feel like. But like you was my homie. Like you wasn't the homie according to my mama, but you were like my good friend. So, but when we rekindled and went to dinner at Zoe's Kitchen, we don't get sponsored by them, but when we went to that dinner, I was like, oh nah, like this girl is it.
So what was the growth that you saw? The
growth? I mean, it was just the confidence, the just where you were in life. I feel like we were in definitely very similar places. Of course, faith was huge for me, so I didn't really know what your faith background was in high school, but that was such a big part of my life and is in my adulthood, and like that came out in conversation. So it was just like everything was just clicking. Like it was just so smooth. But I guess to your question, right? The growth was, if I had to sum it up, was I could definitely tell that you had put all childish ways behind. Like there was just something about you that was like just, you demanded positivity and like, just like I'm about like just my business and elevating. That's what it was. Yeah. What about for me?
I think like my mom had asked me this question actually, not in the terms that I asked you, but is he the same person that you knew when you were in high school?
Mm-hmm.
And I think at your core, like your genuineness, your caring factors, and like how you just love on the people around you, that has never changed. That has stayed put. But I think the growing that you did was defining who you are and like sticking to it, like going against the grain. And I think in that time we saw that. Not to say that you follow, like you always walk to the beat of your own drum, but like it was more defined, and like hearing about your college journey and stuff that you did, like I could see that growth like in that conversation, because we had a conversation about us being on like, you know, the same page of where we were in life. So I think that's the growth I saw in you from when we were kids to like young adults. And like now you went after what you wanted, because apparently you wanted the kid and you didn't go after her. You just let her, you know, run away. But you were more forward and direct, and you knew what you wanted. So I guess that was the same, you know, similar growth that we saw in each other.
You know, and that's so true, because I had to personally grow, right? Like we're talking about individual growth, but also like we'll get into relationally. But like I didn't know or define for myself what I wanted in a person. I didn't know how to love me. You know what I mean? So like that was like a whole journey and process. Cause like, I mean, I was the relationship dude. Like I was always in a relationship. You know, cause I was always texting you, like, oh yeah, me and my girl. Oh yeah, I'm broken up now or whatever. Apparently, I felt the need to.
So, not getting too deep, but like that was the growth. But what was the pain in the growth?
I mean, all those, not unnecessary, but all those like times of just like the time spent. That was the biggest thing. It was like I got the lesson, but I didn't need to spend as much time in other relationships in order to learn what I learned. A big growth factor for me was knowing how to end a relationship when it no longer was going where I knew it was going.
That point. That point.
Or where I wanted it to go, or where I saw for myself. So like, yeah. And therefore I just like let it expire and grow old, as opposed to being like, you know, this is
not what I want.
But like this, because the people pleaser in me was like, I don't want to look like the bad guy, you know?
So which then like speaks to the growth that I saw, which like you knew what you want and you went after what you want.
And I didn't mind, or I guess on the contrary, I was sure. And you always ask me that. You're like, but why? Like, why me? Like, why are you so sure? And I'm just like, I just know. Like, I've always said I want my wife to be my best friend. And like, I literally had those thoughts even before we rekindled. Like, it's either I'm going to have to build a best friendship and then get married, or it's someone I know that like I'm just not even thinking about right now. And it was the latter, so. But yeah, you cool or whatever.
Whatever.
But yeah, what like relationally would you say was like growing pains,
for me?
not only between us, but maybe even like as you were growing in our relationship, how that affected other relationships as well? Or maybe even not with us, like maybe just friendships.
Just in general.
If you got an example.
So I can speak to both. So like the pain in the growth of growing pains was again similar to you, like the recovering people pleaser, and that's what it is like to this day, like giving your all to another individual and like not giving it to yourself. I think growing and the pain in learning like your self-worth and gaining your self-confidence, and that's like realizing that that's an everyday task to do. I think that was some of the pain. And then once those things were at a certain point, you were able to say no, you were able to grow, you were able to move past like the BS basically in like relationships that didn't serve you. In relationship, like friendship wise that you said, just like the same thing with relationships. I think the non-negotiable things are transferable to intimate relationship and also a platonic relationship, like, are you meeting my non-negotiables? Like, if you're not, like, we don't need to be, you know, like, are you adding to my growth? And if not, then I mean, for me, it still hurts because it's like, dang, that sounds a little like rough, but it's also true. Like, who is around you? Because who's around you is who's building you up and who is helping you reach and elevate your higher self, right?
Or the opposite.
Right, or they're dragging you down and you're getting into stuff that you don't need to be getting into, which I've experienced, you know.
Of course, we all experienced that.
But so I think that was the growth and the pains in that, because relationships that I thought would be for a lifetime, I had to reevaluate and be like, this is not for a lifetime. Like, it's the, you know, Tyler Perry, like the reason, season, lifetime, the tree, the branches, the roots, you know it well.
Exactly.
Like, are these people roots? Because that's all I want in my life is roots. Because if I'm firm and planted, like, I'm not moving. So that's what I had to learn, and I learned that more in friendships than I did in relationships. And then in terms of our growing pains, I think the growth in me is coming and like healing and like being able to open up and be vulnerable and have that, you know, deep connection and relationship the way I would have the way I like it to be, or like in my mind envision it to be.
Sure, hope for it.
Yeah, what I've always hoped for. So I think that was the deep. I thought that was a mouse.
No.
So I think that was the deep, you know, growing pains that I had, like, at least initially in the beginning, is just open myself up to that.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, there were definitely moments, like, I mean, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but, like, I remember at your apartment the one time where I forgot what happened, but, like, I just held you, and, like, you were emotional about something, and I just held you, and you were, like, that felt, like, different. Like, I never really, you know, allowed myself to be consoled in the time of need or in an emotional state.
I would tuck myself to my room, close my door, and that would just be it. Like, I was the type to be like, ain't nobody seen me cry.
Right. But you were a crybaby, low-key.
No, I mean, during movies, yes, but like,
I'm one to speak. I ain't even gonna cap.
You are a crybaby.
But yeah, it's all good. You'd be the one looking at me like, are you crying right now? And I don't.
No, your eyes be watering.
Yeah.
You just didn't let the tear drop. It was watering.
Anyway.
But so how about like growing pains in familial relationships? Being who you are at 1 to who you are now at 25.
I think.
How do you navigate that?
That is so needed and relatable, right? Because I think a part of what you said, now that it's all we're talking about it, is like, I know who I am, what I want, and where I'm going, right? So because of that, whenever there's a stimuli from externally, whether that's family, whether that's you, whether that's whatever, there's a filter now. So I filter that through what I know about myself and where I'm going. And sometimes it's valid, like, oh, like, I didn't see it from that perspective. But other times, I'm more keen to when people are projecting their own insecurities, their own scarcity mindset, their own, like, doubts, fears, because, and I try not to hold them to that. So, to answer your question, like, my mom is an educator. She loves to talk and to educate, whether it is an education moment or not. We love you so much. But not every moment is meant to be an education moment. So I just be no, it's not even on blast, because I just let her have those moments, and I be like, and sometimes I make light of it, like I'm the youngest in the family, so like it's cool. But like, you just gotta know your audience. And I think like that for me has helped so much, because I can't hold somebody to a standard that, you know, they may not even know I need them to be held to, type of thing. So, but yeah, what about you?
I think the most challenging is between growing pains individually and growing pains familial. Because again, like these are people who
you love,
they know you, but I'm not who I was at 5 that I am at 10, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You 10?
No, you get what I'm saying. Like I wasn't that and that and that. Okay, but most definitely, like who I am at 25. Telling my age. Who I am at 25 is definitely not who I was at 16 or 14 in high school. And
those relationships look differently.
And those relationships look differently. Like I'm more opinionated. Like I'm viewing life through a different lens and navigating how I preserve relationships. If I say what I really feel, and was the relationship really deep rooted in that? If this is, you know, the deterrent of it, right?
Right.
And like, you know, changing and finding different interests and expressing that, I think has been very challenging. And like you said, like a recovering people pleaser and just like bending over backwards to do for others and not for myself. I think at 25, honestly, I've put a name to the thing and I'm more aware. So that way, like I set things more in place. Not to say that I'm thriving in the department,
of course.
But at least, you know, first step is awareness.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just, I think a part of that growing pain of, you know, being who I am now is I view people in a certain light, like on a pedestal, and I really don't, or I'm learning to see individuals as humans. And humans are flawed.
Absolutely.
And before, you were here in my mind and you could do no wrong.
Right.
And so for me, I'm navigating, okay, you do me wrong, but I still love you and I forgive you. And that.
But that doesn't change the fact that I was hurt about something. Or
exactly. And like, how do I navigate through those pains, right? Like when I was 15, I might have, you know, pulled into my shell. But if I'm at 25, I might speak my mind, and that may end or like cause friction into a relationship that I may not want that to occur. So like you said, knowing your audience, knowing when to speak, like knowing when to let up, knowing when to just walk away. And I think one of the biggest things that I've been told is just to leave people with their dignity. Like, you're not always going to win every argument. People are not always going to understand where you're coming from. But once you leave them with their dignity, they're good. Like, and part of me, I saw like a caption or something like, I'm tired of being the bigger person. Something that, and I sent it to you, I think.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And it's just like, I am. But if I step out of character, that means I'm not growing. That means I'm reverting back to the little girl inside of me, or whatever the case may be. But if I don't act out, and if I'm getting mad deep, like I'm throwing mad subs in this messages, but if I don't act, if I don't, you know, react the way you would have expected me to react, then that's my growth. Because shit is hard, okay? Like, I'd be like, yo, did you forget who you were? Like, your mouth is lethal. Right. But the growth is like, it's not necessary. Like,
exactly. And you have that self-awareness. You have that like wherewithal to be like, I don't even need to go there.
Yeah, but then then my other point is, I know in the conscious, in the physical present, I don't need to go there. Right. But the subconscious and the mind be playing games on you. So it's like, if I would have went there, would I feel better? Like, would I not be bogged down by my thoughts?
Right. Because, I mean, you are just separate from everything. Like, you're a processor, somewhat of an overthinker sometimes.
Not somewhat. I mean, you could say I am an overthinker.
But there's a balance even with that. So I think in terms of like managing expectations, right? DTR, like defining the relationship, not whether that's family, whether that's friends, whether that's romantically, right? It's so necessary because it's basically like setting the tone for what that person can expect from you, but also what you may need from them. And I think a lot of times, especially with family and even romantically sometimes, like you just kind of get used to the way things are. And then or have been, and then you never
adapt to the change.
Exactly. Reassess the pre-written contract or the unspoken, way that things are.
Right.
But
I mean, because life happens, and you're not. If you remain the same, I'm gonna raise my eyebrow. Like that.
Right.
That is like stagnant.
Yeah, if you're not growing, you're
growing.
dying.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, no, you're not dying. You're dead. Like. So.
Yeah.
Honestly, people are growing, and navigating those relationships are really tough. And just get out your own head and out your own way. Like, I know that advice, but I just need to take that advice, right?
But we were talking about that this morning, though. Like, what does it actually take to rewire your subconscious? Because sometimes, like, you can subconsciously hold on to things, even though you've consciously said, like,
I want to let it go.
I'm over this. I'm beyond it. But then you get triggered by something, and it's like all these things start rushing back, and it's like, whoa, I don't even want to feel this because consciously I've said, like, I'm over this, but clearly there's a subconscious, like, wiring or programming that is used to reacting a certain way. So.
And I think the book that I've been reading is Woman Evolve by Sarah Jake Roberts. And part of that is reverting back to the little girl inside of us or the little boy inside of us who would be defensive and, like, hold on to those things versus, like, the grown up person who may have a different take on those things.
Wow. The fact that you when you said that just now, it made me think, like, and I'm not going to speak for all men, but I know at least the men that I know, and myself included, I get defensive about things in different situations. Yeah. So when you come to me or I feel like I'm being attacked, I'm going to get defensive. And I've, like, noticed that you've pointed that out to me, from a place of frustration, because it's like, I don't like that about you, saying that to me. And it's a valid point. So
I love you, but I don't like you.
Right. I love you, but I don't like you. And it's like, and that, well, firstly, just having a space.
Well, hold on. I love you, but I don't like you right now.
Right. Just to be clear. Firstly, just having a space for that type of communication is so important. But then also, like, as the offender in that specific case, like, okay, why did I get defensive? Like, we've had those long conversations after an argument. Like,
no, on both ends, though. And then you find that it's rooted deeply in something else
that has nothing to do with the other person. Yeah. No, that's definitely powerful.
And that's part of the growth.
Absolutely.
But you don't like doing that, so that's the pain in the growth. So the growing pains, man. This is the growing pains. Yes. It's never ending. And like you said, like, if you're not growing, you're dying. And then I think one thing that is a blessing and a curse is, again, the awareness. So the awareness of reading deep into things and, like, analyzing. And there's a part that you can overanalyze, but you're just trying to, navigate your actions and find out the reasons why.
Right.
And, like, I've been in relationships or stuff where people were like, not everything has to have a why. Like, not everything is for a reason. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm a firm believer that everything has a reason. Like, everything you do is for a reason. Like, whether you are aware and you know it or not, but it's, like, planted in something else. And, like, I think the blessing in us is that we are aware to look deeper. I think the curse in it is that you can drive yourself crazy trying to figure out, like, what's is that root of that thing, right? Yeah. And then it never comes to you.
Yeah.
Or it takes its time coming to you, and you get frustrated.
Yeah. That's real. And that's just life. But the good thing to that, when you do have a partner, or you may pray or go confide in a friend or family or sibling or whatever, like, there's a lot of value in sitting with your stuff. Like, and you taught me that, really, because, like, I'm an on-go type of guy. Like, what's next? I'm a doer. And she's a processor like I've never seen before. So, like, and there's there's a beautiful balance, because there's times where I'm like, all right, Bree, like, come on. And there's times like, no, but like, to me, you know, did you really even acknowledge or process how this made you feel? You know, because then it would hit me like a year later, like, yo,
this made me feel this way because
you know what I'm saying? So like,
or I move this way now because
of this other thing
yeah,
that I was either trying to be like or not to be like.
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, it does all play a part, right? But I don't know how we segued here. But the protection that you put up for yourself, like involuntarily.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm sure there's a scientific word for it that I'm escaping me right now.
Self-preservation.
Sure. Okay, we'll go with that for now. But like involuntary, I'm not saying we put up voluntarily,
like guarding
yourself and stuff like that. But the involuntary be taking you aback. Like I didn't even know that this thing that I set in place was to protect me from this. Yeah. And it's not growing pains in relationships. It's not until you say something that's triggering, or I say or do something that's triggering, that we realize, oh, this thing that I set in place is not rational, but it was set in place to protect me because I've dealt with this before.
Other thing, right? Exactly. That's deep.
That's a word.
That's a whole word. Mic drop.
And here you go with the corniness. Because would we be us without being corny? Just growing pains and navigating life that is constantly evolving and changing. Like our circumstances are always changing and we're always growing. And like Taj said, like if you're not growing, you dead. So I'm constantly striving to grow. Yeah. I don't know about you. Like be a better version of myself than I was yesterday.
Girl, you know that's me. That's just
I know that is you. But you know, leave a comment. You know, talking about maybe a pain in your growth or a growth in your pain. That don't make no sense. Huh?
Something that resonated, that like you were like, yes, I know exactly what that means, or I have a partner or a previous relationship or family member that I've had some sort of growing pains with. And also, as always, leave a comment. Like,
or what your current, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What your current growing pain might be.
Yeah. Because we're always, again, if you're not changing, if you're not growing, then, you're dying.
Yeah, it's all about evolution. Like, I believe in God, but I believe in evolution.
Hey, they're not mutually exclusive.
But yeah, so keep growing, keep thriving, and the pain, will endure. Weeping in pain. I'm adding pain. It wasn't in the Bible, but I'm adding it. It may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning.
Yes, that is true. But just know that, like, whatever pain you're going through, whatever growing pains, maybe you feel like you are stagnant, right? Like, maybe that's just a part of the growing pain being between two versions of yourself. Like, whatever it is, just know you're not alone. God loves you. We love you. And just journey with us.
And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.
Yes. Let us know what y'all want us to talk about next.
Oh, yeah. Let us know what you want to talk about next. And also ring that bell.
Yes, hit the notification bell.
We don't know. We're winging it as we go.
She knows. But yeah.
But yes, let's navigate life together.
We love y'all.
Peace.